Please, don't do this, I screamed as my father dragged me toward the abandoned well. The moon disappeared behind clouds, too ashamed to witness what was happening. You are a curse, Chukwu, he shouted, his eyes wild with rage and palm wine. I clawed at the ground, my fingernails breaking against the hard earth. Please, Papa, what did I do wrong? I begged, tears streaming down my 10-year-old face as I struggled against his iron grip. The smell of palm wine on his breath mixed with the night air. Silence, he roared, slapping me so hard I saw stars. Uncle Emeka followed behind us, carrying thick ropes and a torch that cast monstrous shadows on the trees around us. The village was far behind now. No one could hear my screams. I am not a curse, Papa. I am your son, I cried, fighting with all my might as we approached the abandoned well that everyone in the village feared. My father lifted me up with both hands, my legs kicking helplessly in the air. His eyes were not the eyes of the man who once carried me on his shoulders. These were the eyes of a stranger. A son who brings blessings, he snarled through clenched teeth. You bring only death and poverty. Then, without another word, he threw me into the darkness. The fall seemed to last forever. Wind rushed past my ears, my stomach lurched. Then came the shocking cold of dirty water as I plunged into the bottom of the well. Splash! Pain shot through my body. Above me I heard the scraping sound of rocks being pushed over the opening, sealing me in darkness. Die with your curse, boy. My father's voice echoed down as the circle of night sky grew smaller and disappeared completely. Floating in that freezing water, my body broken and bleeding, I made a promise to myself. If I survive this night, I will not just live. I will build a life so magnificent that even the heavens will have to look down in wonder. My name is Chukwu Okonkwo, and this is not just a story of how my father tried to kill me. This is the story of how I rose from a watery grave to build the most powerful mansions Nigeria has ever seen. Chukwu, come here now. My father's voice boomed through our small mud hut in our village near Enugu. His voice was not the kind, gentle voice I sometimes heard when he was happy. This was his angry voice, the one that made my small body shake with fear. I ran to him, my bare feet slapping against the hard dirt floor. Yes, Papa? I asked, my voice small like a mouse. My father, Adebayo Okonkwo, was a tall man with hands as rough as tree bark. His eyes were red that night, and I could smell the palm wine on his breath. Next to him stood Uncle Emeka, his face hidden in shadows. This boy is the reason for all our problems, my father said to Uncle Emeka, not even looking at me. The witch doctor said so. Since he was born, our family has known nothing but bad luck. Tears filled my eyes. But Papa, I am a good boy. I help Mama in the farm. I get good marks in school. He slapped me hard across the face. I fell to the ground, tasting blood in my mouth. Shut up. You are a curse, he shouted. The crops fail because of you. Your mother is sick because of you. Our poverty is because of you. My mother was not home that night. She had gone to visit her sister in another village. If she had been there, maybe things would have been different. What will you do, Adebayo? Uncle Emeka asked, his voice low and scary. My father grabbed my arm so hard it hurt. I will end this curse tonight. He dragged me outside into the darkness. I kicked and screamed, but his grip was too strong. Uncle Emeka followed behind us, carrying a rope. I called for help, but our neighbors either could not hear or chose not to listen. We walked for what seemed like hours until we reached the old well at the edge of the village. It had dried up years ago, but it was still very deep. People said it was haunted by evil spirits. Please, I begged, tears streaming down my face. I will be better. I will make you proud. For a moment I thought I saw doubt in his eyes. But then Uncle Emeka whispered something in his ear, and his face became hard again. Tie his hands, my father ordered. Uncle Emeka bound my wrists with the rough rope. It cut into my skin, but the pain was nothing compared to the breaking of my heart. Papa, why are you doing this? I sobbed. I love you, Papa. My father looked at me one last time. You are not my son. You are a curse that must be removed. With those words, he lifted me up and dropped me into the darkness of the well. I screamed as I fell, the walls of the well scraping against my skin. Then came the painful thud as I hit the bottom. I heard my father and Uncle Emeka push heavy rocks over the top of the well. "Goodbye, curse," I heard my father say before their footsteps faded away. I lay there in the darkness, my body broken, my spirit crushed. The night was cold, and I was alone. So alone. I don't know how long I lay at the bottom of that well. Hours passed like years. The pain in my body was terrible, but the pain in my heart was worse. Why would my father do this to me? What had I done to deserve such hatred? As the first light of dawn filtered through the small opening at the top of the well, I could see my prison better. The well was about 20 feet deep with rough stone walls. There was a little water at the bottom, muddy and dirty, but it had cushioned my fall just enough to keep me alive. My legs were hurt bad and I couldn't stand. My hands were still tied, and the rope had cut deep into my wrists. I was hungry, thirsty, and scared. "Help!" I tried to shout again, but my voice was now just a whisper. "Please, someone help me." Then I heard something. A voice. "Hello? Is someone down there?" It was a child's voice, curious and innocent. Yes, I'm here. Help me, please," I managed to call out with all the strength I had left. A small face appeared at the top of the well, blocking the little light that was coming in. It was a girl, maybe my age or a little older. "Oh, there really is a boy down there," she gasped. "Wait, I will get my grandfather." The face disappeared and I was left alone again. What if she didn't come back? What if this was just a dream? But a few minutes later I heard voices. Many voices. "Amara said there's a boy down in the old well," a deep voice called out. "That's impossible, Baba Tunde. That well has been covered for years," another voice replied. "Let's see then." The rocks at the top of the well were moved aside, and sunlight poured in, blinding me for a moment. When my eyes adjusted, I could see several faces peering down at me. "Chineke, M. There really is a boy down there," a woman's voice exclaimed. "Quickly, get ropes. Call the doctor," Baba Tunde ordered. Soon a strong rope was lowered down to me, but my hands were still tied and I was too weak to grab it. "I can't hold it," I cried. "My hands are tied and I'm hurt." "Don't worry, young one," Baba Tunde called down. "I'm coming to get you." To my amazement, the old man began to climb down the rope into the well. He was a tall, thin man with gray hair and kind eyes. When he reached me, he quickly untied my hands and examined my injuries. "What is your name, child?" he asked gently. "Chukwu," I whispered. "Chukwu Okonkwo." His eyes widened. "Adebayo's son. We thought you had been taken by spirits in the night. Your father said—" "My father threw me here," I interrupted, tears filling my eyes again. "He said I was a curse." Baba Tunde's face darkened with anger, but he spoke softly to me. "No child is a curse, Chukwu. Someone has poisoned your father's mind with wicked lies." He tied the rope around my chest, under my arms. "Hold tight, little one. We're going to pull you up now." "I'm scared," I admitted. "Fear is natural," he said, "but so is courage. And I can see you have plenty of that. How else could you have survived this night?" The people above began to pull on the rope, and slowly I was lifted out of the darkness. When I emerged from the well, I was blinded by the bright sunlight. A crowd had gathered, men, women, and children from a village I didn't recognize. A woman stepped forward and wrapped a blanket around my shivering body. "Poor child," she said, tears in her eyes. "What kind of monster would do this to his own son?" "Where am I?" I asked, looking around at the unfamiliar surroundings. "You are in Umuahia village," Baba Tunde explained as he climbed out of the well. "Your village, Nduka, is about 5 miles from here." The girl who had found me stepped forward. She had bright eyes and a kind smile. "I'm Amara," she said. "I heard you crying when I was collecting water this morning." "You saved my life," I told her. "Thank you." A man pushed through the crowd. He wore glasses and carried a bag. "I am Dr. Namdi," he said, kneeling beside me. "Let me look at your injuries." As the doctor examined me, Baba Tunde addressed the crowd. "This boy needs a home. His father has committed a terrible act against his own blood. He can stay with us?" Amara's mother, Mrs. Chioma Adeyemi, stepped forward. "We have room, and Amara could use a brother." Babatunde looked at me. "What do you think, Chukwu? Would you like to stay with the Adeyemi family while we sort this out?" I didn't know what to say. These strangers were showing me more kindness than my own father ever had. "What about my mother?" I asked. "She doesn't know what happened to me." "We will find her and tell her you are safe," Babatunde promised. "But first, you need rest and healing." Dr. Namdi finished his examination. No broken bones by some miracle, but he is badly bruised and dehydrated. He needs food, water, and rest. Mrs. Adeyemi picked me up as if I weighed nothing. "Then that is what he shall have." As they carried me to their home, I looked back at the well that was supposed to be my grave. The morning sun shone on it, making it look less frightening in the daylight. "Be strong, Chukwu," Babatunde said, walking beside me. "Your story is not over. Sometimes the worst beginnings lead to the most beautiful endings." I didn't believe him then. How could anything beautiful come from such ugliness? But as I was about to learn, Babatunde was a very wise man indeed. 10 years passed, 10 years of healing, learning, and growing. The Adeyemi family became my new family. Mrs. Chioma Adeyemi treated me like her own son, and Amara became the sister I never had. Mr. Adeyemi was a builder who constructed houses for rich people in the city. He taught me everything he knew about building. My mother eventually found me. When she discovered what my father had done, she left him and came to live in Umuahia too. She rented a small room near the Adeyemis and visited me every day. The joy in her eyes when she first saw me alive is something I will never forget. "My son," she had cried, holding me tight. "My precious son. I thought I had lost you forever." As for my father, he fled when the police came looking for him. Uncle Emeka was arrested and went to prison for helping with the terrible deed. I heard my father had gone to another state, far away. Part of me was glad. I didn't want to see him. The memories were still too painful. Babatunde became my teacher and mentor. He was not just the village elder, but also a man who had traveled far and wide in his youth. He had books, many books, and he shared them all with me. "Knowledge is a weapon, Chukwu," he often told me. "With it, you can build a new life." And build I did. I studied hard at school, earning the best grades. When I wasn't studying, I was helping Mr. Adeyemi with his building work. I loved watching simple materials transform into beautiful structures. By the time I was 20, I had finished secondary school with top marks and earned a scholarship to study architecture at the University of Lagos. The day I received the acceptance letter, the entire village celebrated. "See how far you've come from that well," Amara said, now a beautiful young woman studying to be a doctor. "I couldn't have done it without all of you," I replied honestly. University was challenging but exciting. I learned about modern building techniques and combined them with the practical skills Mr. Adeyemi had taught me. During holidays, I worked for construction companies to earn extra money and gain experience. In my final year at university, I designed a special house for my project. A beautiful, affordable home that used local materials but had modern comforts. My professors were impressed. "This design could change how we build homes in Nigeria," one of them said. After graduation, I worked for a big construction company in Lagos for 2 years. I saved every naira I could. My dream was growing bigger by the day. One evening, I visited Babatunde, who was now very old but still full of wisdom. "I want to start my own company," I told him. "I want to build houses that ordinary Nigerians can afford but will be proud to live in." Babatunde smiled. "The boy from the well now wants to build homes for others. There is poetry in that, Chukwu." With a small loan from the bank, plus my savings and some help from Mr. Adeyemi, I started Phoenix Homes, named after the bird that rises from ashes, just as I had risen from that well. My first project was small, just 2 modest houses on the outskirts of Lagos. I put everything I had learned into those houses. When they sold quickly, I reinvested the money into a bigger project. Word spread about the young architect who built beautiful, affordable homes. More clients came. My company grew. I hired more workers, including young people from Umuahia who needed jobs. 3 years after starting Phoenix Homes, I won a contract to build a community of 50 houses for middle-income families in Abuja. It was my biggest project yet. The night before construction began, I couldn't sleep. I went to the empty land where soon 50 families would have homes. From a well to this, I whispered to myself, looking at the vast piece of land under the stars. A security guard approached me. "Sir, are you okay?" "Yes," I replied. "Just thinking about how far I've come." The guard nodded. "I heard your story, sir. Everyone in the company talks about it. You give us hope that we too can overcome our problems." I hadn't realized my story had spread among my workers. But perhaps that was good. Perhaps my pain could be someone else's inspiration. The Abuja project was a huge success. More contracts followed. 5 years after starting my company, Phoenix Homes was one of the fastest growing construction companies in Nigeria. But success wasn't just about making money for me. For every 10 houses I built for clients, I built one for a family in need. I started a foundation that provided education for orphaned children. "Why do you help so many people?" a journalist once asked me during an interview. "Because when I was at my lowest, strangers became my family," I answered. "They pulled me out of darkness. Now it's my turn to do the same for others." By the time I turned 30, Phoenix Homes had built over 500 houses across Nigeria, including luxury mansions for the wealthy in Lagos and Abuja. I had offices in 3 cities and employed over 200 people. But the biggest project was yet to come. One morning, my assistant came into my office looking nervous. "Sir, there's an old man here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he insists it's important." I was busy reviewing plans for a new development, but something made me say, "Send him in." The door opened and an old man shuffled in. He was thin, with bent shoulders and a walking stick. His clothes were clean but worn. When he looked up, my heart stopped. It was my father. 20 years had changed him completely. The strong, fearsome man who had thrown me into a well was now a frail old man. But I would know those eyes anywhere. For a long moment, we just stared at each other. The office was silent except for the ticking of the clock on the wall. "Chukwu," he finally said, his voice a raspy whisper. "My son." I stood up slowly. A storm of emotions raged inside me. Anger, hurt, confusion, and something else I couldn't name. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. He lowered his eyes. "I heard about you. Everyone talks about the great Chukwu Okonkwo who builds houses for the rich and the poor. I saw your picture in a newspaper. And now you want what?" "Money." The bitterness I thought I had overcome bubbled to the surface. He shook his head. "Number, I deserve nothing from you." He looked up, his eyes filled with tears. "I came to beg for your forgiveness before I die." I wasn't prepared for this. In all my imagined reunions with my father, I had never pictured him asking for forgiveness. "You threw me in a well and left me to die," I said, each word heavy with the weight of that terrible night. "You called me a curse." "I was a fool," he replied, tears now flowing freely down his wrinkled cheeks. I listened to wicked men who filled my head with superstitions. I was drunk and angry at the world for our poverty, but none of that excuses what I did. He fell to his knees, his walking stick clattering to the floor. "Every day since that night, I have lived with the horror of what I did to my own child. When I heard you had survived, I was too ashamed to face you or your mother. I should have felt triumph seeing him like this, the man who had nearly killed me now on his knees. But all I felt was sadness. Where have you been all these years?" I asked. "Hiding, working as a laborer in different cities, living with my shame." He looked around at my grand office. "And now I find that the son I threw away has become a great man, while I am nothing." I walked around my desk and helped him to his feet and into a chair. His body felt so small, so fragile. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he continued. "I just needed to tell you that I am sorry. So sorry." His voice broke on the last words. I poured him a glass of water and handed it to him. His hands shook as he took it. "Why did you hate me so much?" I asked, the question that had haunted me for 20 years. I never hated you, Chukwu. I hated myself, my failures, my inability to provide for our family. He took a shaky breath. Uncle Emeka told me that a witch doctor said you were the cause of our problems. In my weakness and ignorance, I believed him. We talked for hours. He told me how after fleeing, he had lived a life of misery, moving from place to place, always haunted by what he had done. He had tried to drink away the guilt, but it never left him. Your mother was right to leave me, he said. I destroyed our family with my own hands. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across my office, I made a decision. Come with me, I said to him. He looked confused but followed me to my car. My driver took us to a construction site on the outskirts of Lagos. It was my newest project, a community of affordable homes for workers and their families. This is Phoenix Village, I told him as we stood looking at the half-finished houses. 100 homes for people who need them. It's wonderful, he said, his eyes wide with amazement. I pointed to a house near the edge of the development. That one will be yours, if you want it. He stared at me in disbelief. Mine. But why would you do this for me? After what I did, I took a deep breath. Because I learned something important at the bottom of that well. Hatred and bitterness are like prisons. I don't want to live in that prison anymore. I don't deserve your kindness, he whispered. Maybe not, I agreed. But this isn't just for you. It's for me too. I need to let go of the past to fully embrace my future. He broke down then, sobbing like a child. I put my arm around his shoulders, surprised at how easy it felt. There's one condition, I added. You must help build these houses. Every resident of Phoenix Village contributes to the community. He wiped his eyes and stood straighter than before. I will work harder than anyone. 6 months later, Phoenix Village was complete. My father moved into his new home. He had kept his promise, working alongside much younger men, sharing his knowledge of traditional building methods that I had incorporated into the designs. On the day of the grand opening, I invited everyone who had been part of my journey. The Adeyemi family, Baba Tunde, now very old but still sharp-minded, my mother, who had eventually found it in her heart to speak civilly to my father, and Amara, now a successful doctor. As I cut the ribbon to officially open Phoenix Village, I looked at the gathered crowd. My employees, the new residents, my loved ones, and my father standing quietly at the back. 20 years ago, I was thrown into a well and left to die, I began, and a hush fell over the crowd. Many knew my story, but not all. I could have died there in the darkness, but fate had other plans. I looked at Amara and her family. Kind strangers pulled me out and gave me a new home. They showed me that family isn't just about blood. I gestured to the houses around us. Every brick in these homes represents something important. Hope, second chances, new beginnings. We all go through dark times, but it's what we build after the darkness that defines us. My eyes found my father's, and sometimes the greatest thing we can build isn't made of bricks and mortar, but of forgiveness. Later, as the celebration continued around us, my father approached me. I don't know if I can ever forgive myself, he said quietly. That's your well to climb out of, I replied, but you don't have to do it alone. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. That night, I stood alone looking at the stars, thinking about the journey from that dark well to this moment. I remembered Baba Tunde's words from so long ago. Sometimes the worst beginnings lead to the most beautiful endings. He was right. The night I was thrown in a well by my own father didn't destroy me. It was the beginning of a path that led me to build not just mansions of brick and stone, but something much more valuable, a life of purpose, surrounded by people I love, doing work that matters. Little did my father know when he threw me into that well, I would not only survive, but thrive. And in doing so, I would learn the greatest lesson of all, that even the deepest darkness cannot overcome the light we carry within us.